What people are starting to notice about Brian Okwara and Sonia Uch is something that doesn't immediately scream for attention, but slowly pulls you in the more you watch them. Because at first it looks like normal on-screen chemistry, but then it begins to feel like there's something deeper happening beneath the surface flushed fire, and that shift is what is making viewers uncomfortable in a way they can't fully explain because usually, when you watch actors you can separate the performance from reality. You can tell where the script ends and where the acting begins, but with these two that line feels blurred, exploding red, like the emotions don't feel staged, they feel lived in, and that's what is making people question what exactly they are witnessing. The interesting part is how effortless everything seems, because there is no visible struggle in their interaction, no sense of trying too hard to convince the audience eyes clapper. Instead, it feels like two people who naturally understand each other's rhythm and are simply allowing that understanding to flow on screen. And when something looks that easy, it automatically feels more real. Fans are beginning to focus on the details that normally go unnoticed, because with Brian and Sonia, those details are where the real story seems to be. Hot television things like how their eye contact lingers just a little longer than expected, how their responses come with slight pauses that feel natural instead of rehearsed, and how their physical closeness sometimes feels unplanned. And once you start noticing those details, it becomes impossible to ignore them. Loudly collision, because they repeat across different scenes and different moments, creating a pattern that doesn't feel accidental. And that pattern is what is making viewers go back and rewatch their performances again and again. There's this growing sense that what they are doing goes beyond just delivering lines, because even in moments of silence, there is still communication happening. Flushed fire, and that silent communication is what is making their connection feel so intense, because it suggests that there is something being expressed without words. One particular scene has become a turning point in how people view them, because it shifted everything from admiration to curiosity. Exploding red. Before that scene, people were impressed by their chemistry, but after it, people started asking questions, because something about that moment felt too real to be dismissed as just acting. It wasn't a loud scene, it didn't rely on dramatic music or heavy dialogue eyes clapper, it was actually quiet and controlled, and that's exactly why it stood out, because both Brian and Sonia allowed the silence to carry the emotion, and in that silence there was tension, vulnerability, and a kind of honesty that felt raw. Now viewers are analyzing their body language more closely, because physical behavior often reveals what words cannot. Hot television, and what people are noticing is a level of comfort between them that suggests familiarity, like they are not just acting around each other but genuinely reacting to each other. Brian's body language, in particular, often appears relaxed and open when he is around Sonia, while Sonia's responses carry a natural ease that doesn't feel forced. Smirking brain. And these are subtle things, but they are difficult to fake consistently, which is why they are drawing so much attention. Another detail that stands out is how they mirror each other's movements and energy without it being obvious. Detective male dizzy, sometimes their gestures align, sometimes their timing matches, and sometimes their emotional tone shifts in sync, and that kind of synchronization usually indicates a strong connection. The internet has turned this into a full conversation, because people are no longer just watching for entertainment, they are actively trying to understand what is happening. Flushed fire fans are comparing scenes, breaking down moments, and even looking at behind-the-scenes clips to see if the same energy exists outside of their roles. Some viewers believe this is simply the result of two highly skilled actors who know how to connect emotionally on screen, while others are convinced there is something more genuine behind it. Exploding red. And that difference in opinion is what is keeping the discussion alive. What makes it even more interesting is the consistency of their chemistry, because it doesn't appear in just one scene or one project. Eyes clapper, it shows up repeatedly in different situations, which makes it harder to dismiss as coincidence or luck. Another factor that keeps viewers hooked is the unpredictability of their interactions. Hot television, unlike typical on-screen pairs, where you can anticipate how a scene will unfold, Brian and Sonia create moments that feel spontaneous, like they are reacting in real time, rather than following a set pattern. Their eye contact has become one of the biggest talking points, because it carries a level of intensity that feels almost intrusive. Loudly collision, like you are witnessing something private rather than something meant for an audience, and that feeling is what makes people slightly uncomfortable, but also unable to look away. Their emotional scenes also stand out, because they avoid exaggeration. Flushed fire, instead of expressing everything openly, they hold certain emotions back, and that restraint makes their reactions feel more realistic. Because in real life, people rarely show everything they feel. As viewers continue to watch and rewatch their performances, new details keep emerging, exploding red. And each new detail adds another layer to the conversation, making it more complex and more intriguing. There is also a strong sense of balance between them, because Brian brings a calm, controlled intensity, while Sonia adds emotional depth and expressiveness. Eyes clapper. And when those two energies combine, they create a dynamic that feels complete and natural. The more people analyze their connection, the more it becomes clear that it cannot be easily explained. Hot television, because it goes beyond technique and enters a space that feels instinctive, like they are responding to each other in a way that doesn't require conscious effort. At the center of everything is a question that continues to grow. Are viewers simply witnessing exceptional acting? Or is there something real influencing what they are seeing? Loudly collision, because the line between those two possibilities has become increasingly difficult to define, and, as long as that question remains unanswered, the interest will not fade. Flushed fire, because people are naturally drawn to connections that feel authentic, and what Brian Okwara and Sonia Uch are displaying feels exactly like that now. Every new scene they appear in is being watched more closely than ever. Exploding red, not just for enjoyment, but for clues, because viewers are no longer passive. They are actively observing, analyzing, and trying to piece together what might be happening beneath the surface. Even the smallest interaction now carries weight, because it could reveal something new. Eyes clapper, and that level of attention shows just how powerful their on-screen presence has become. What started as simple admiration has turned into curiosity, then into fascination, and now into a full conversation that continues to grow. Hot television, because people are not just reacting to what they see, they are trying to understand why it feels the way it. The truth is that part of what makes their connection so compelling is that it cannot be fully explained. Loudly collision, because once something becomes too easy to understand, it loses its mystery.